operating staff that they were asking for, this is not as much as it was in 2024. And also that number was kind of high because of also legal services and things of that nature. We needed to deal with it. And so at 467,549, I think is pretty reasonable for office at, you know, at this time. And then once we get on budget again, we'll be able to decide the budget if we were able to do it as a department. At this time, I'll just bring it up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's right. I'm well. How are you? Good, good, good. So there's a mandatory minimum of $250,000 in charter for this office.
Correct.
How's that spread across personnel?
That is right there, that would be eaten by the majority of salary. Just the $250,000, we put that in there now, and leave it at where it is between, I think, the ombuds person is. Okay. So the current ombuds person would make 93,000, and then with the different analysts at 41,000.
You said how much for the ombuds position?
$93,371.20. Yeah, that's before printing and business.
Mm-hmm.
And then the two analyst positions are at 41,000, and those are both full-time. And then also the administrative assistant at 35,256. So if you add all of those numbers together, basically all of that eats up to $250,000 as far as meeting operational costs, as far as maintaining the office because we're no longer here at City Hall. We're at the Oak Business Center, and we have to pay rent there. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, remember that condition? Yeah, they made a big deal about that last year. I guess I can remember.
Yes, ma'am. And so with that case, the $250,000 just would not be enough for the operation of the office.
Okay, so I see one of your bullet points here, increased community knowledge. Fun questions coming. Does the ombudsperson's budget include sufficient resources for outreach efforts to engage residents or raise awareness about how to file complaints and access services?
So, for professional services, we're requesting for the $20,000. And the posters and publishing, we're looking at right at 12,000. And then with supplies and different things, so $4,500. And so I honestly believe that that would be adequate enough for us to be able to get out the kinds of communication, flyers, things of that nature, letting people know about the ombudsperson's office, and then letting them know how to submit a complaint online. They can do a complaint online or written. We don't take verbal complaints, just for the simple fact, you know, you need a paper trail when you're following the complaint. And so even though you can do one verbally, it's better practice that you put
okay. Are there any, excuse me, has the office conducted an evaluation of its community engagement efforts?
No, it has not, just for the simple fact that we do not have an ombudsman in place. So technically, the board would be able to handle that. However, uh, when it comes down to those kinds of things,
Okay,
yeah, the
so
board.
that brings me to the fun questions. There has not been an ombudsperson in place for quite some time now,
Yes, sir.
right? And I know last year, we were told that 31 complaints were addressed or lodged or something like that. I know the number was extremely low for the year. So how many residential complaints have been received since last year, so this year?
So as of this year, and Councilwoman, I don't have those numbers in front of me as of right now, but I definitely can get them to you. However, I can say this, the board hasn't been able to address any of the complaints due to,
You said you have not.
we haven't been able to.
That answers my next question. And so that answers my question after that as well. Okay. So then I guess that goes back to the outreach and community engagement. Is there a plan, since there is no ombudsperson, and that community engagement still has to happen, that office is still open and it is still being funded? And you still have 2 analysts and an assistant, correct? So then, are there going to be any efforts by the analyst and the assistant? So, okay, what is the analyst's job?
So the analyst's job will basically be, so if a complaint comes in,
Mhm.
they help, and they analyze the data, they compartmentalize it, make sure that it's in proper order, everything has been submitted,
Mhm.
and that everything is ready to be filed, or to take the case to the ombudsman, and the ombudsman to be.
So then, because we have 2 analysts, we can still receive complaints.
We don't have it, we don't,
Oh, that's what I said, I'm sorry, maybe my question wasn't clear, okay.
forgive me, the only person that we have operating in the office is the administrative assistant.
So we have an administrative assistant to an ombudsperson and analysts that do not exist, and we're not taking any complaints, we've investigated nothing, we resolved nothing, but we're still paying that person $35,000?
Correct, yes.
Help me understand.
Well, the reason one is because complaints still have to be filed, and, Mrs. Little makes sure that even if there are phone calls coming in, she directs them and lets them know, and you can still submit, complaints online, and some stuff.
Okay, so then, we're still receiving complaints, and we're still filing complaints.
Correct, you just can't.
And we don't have a number of how many we've received and filed. I would imagine that, since we were only at 31 this time last year, we probably have less than that, because there's no community engagement for them to know that the office is operational.
Correct.
So, help me justify why we have an assistant to positions that don't exist, that are not necessarily collecting or receiving complaints anyway.
Well, the reason why is because we want to have those positions in place, because once we get an ombudsman in, then the ombudsman would be able to open up and ask for, open it up for them to begin hiring for the analyst and for the analyst investigative position. That's one of the reasons that's why we put that number at 41.
So, do we currently have the position posted for the ombudsperson and the analyst?
So the ombudsman position was closed on December 31st of 2024. And so, we're currently in the process of trying to get an ombudsman for that office.
So we had applicants in December?
Yes, ma'am.
How many applicants?
Altogether, we had a total of 28 applicants. Out of those applicants, from what I was told, only 7 were qualified. So they disqualified 20, HR disqualified 21 of those applicants. But for whatever those reasons are, the board itself isn't sure, because we were trying to meet with HR to find out all of the details.
Understood. So are we still at 7, or because from December to April is 4 months, so have we not had time to narrow down an ombudsperson, or?
So to be honest with you, our board And so because we haven't been able to meet quorum to have, no, I think that's, forgive me, we haven't met quorum since, late February. And because of those issues, the board is not able for me to do the things it needs to do.
Is it you've not met quorum because obviously you don't have 9 people on your board? But do you have enough members of your board to make quorum?
Yes, ma'am, we have a total of 8 members, however, you need 6 to have quorum.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if somebody is running late, or if 2 members don't show up, you still wouldn't have, you know, it's not enough to make quorum.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really has been, that's really been the issue, is that board members have not been coming in order for us to meet quorum.
No, the late argument kind of doesn't work because if you're late, you still came, so you should still have a quorum if you're late. So it's just that you don't have 6 people showing up.
Correct.
I understand.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. And I don't even know what else is there. What about the analyst positions? Have we been interviewing for the analyst positions? Have they been posted?
They were posted at one point in time when Mrs. Little was acting as the interim ombudsperson, and we did have an analyst in, but they resigned. They did resign. So, however, we could still post for the position, and the board could take in those, could hire an analyst and an analyst investigator as well, but we were thinking that perhaps we would like to have an ombudsman to do that itself once we got an ombudsman in place. Because we could hire somebody, and then if the ombudsman didn't like their work or didn't like, we turn around and terminate them. So we wanted to give the ombudsman that freedom to hire their staff.
I hear you, but from December to April, that's 4 months that you've been waiting for an ombudsperson just because of the position. But there already wasn't an ombudsperson in place for a much longer time before that. And so, while I certainly hear what you're saying, we have an assistant there who has no one to assist, who is taking an unknown number of complaints and just simply filing them. Whereas if there were an analyst there, that we could at least begin to at least sift through the complaints.
No, correct. I understand exactly where you're coming from. So, yes, the analyst would be able, if we did get an analyst, they will be able to look at the complaints filed and have them ready. Once we got an ombudsman in, then we'll be able to start working on the cases to meet that. Now, we do know that we do have the numbers of how many complaints have been filed. I just don't have that paperwork with me at this time.
Mm-hmm. So, and I'm just going off of last year, you had 31 total for a year. So, even if we were to say that it was 31 again, that does not justify having an assistant just sitting there all day and fighting. Like, what else would they be doing?
Well, they do answer, the assistant does answer the telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to take calls and direct them by saying, no, if you're going to file a complaint, this is the correct way to do it. You can go online and you can look at it here, or you can come into the office and you can write a complaint as well. So the administrative assistant role is making sure that complaints are coming in, and also the administrative assistant, she knows how to work the system as well, so that she knows what the tally is and how.
But I would imagine, right, you are setting her up for failure by having her take calls, walk people through something that's going nowhere. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I would imagine that is setting her up for huge failure. So, is it not possible to at least get one analyst in there, because you are not clear on where you are as far as hiring a ombudsperson?
Correct. No, we can do this. We don't have a problem with opening up. We just have to speak with, we have to just meet with HR and tell HR to begin hiring for these 2 positions. However, I would like to, even though I can make a decision like that on my own, I would like for the board to come to a consensus and for us to make that decision together. But
I completely understand. May I offer you communicating with them, telling them that you need a quorum so that you can have a consensus on moving forward with this. Otherwise, because again, us not doing anything with this office that we have $250,000 that we're mandated to put into it, and all that we are charter mandated to have, but it's doing absolutely nothing. No offense to the assistant, because I'm really not even trying to offend her, because this is not on her, the fact that her job is solely just to take complaints that she can do nothing with. But I think it's worth you saying to the other members of the board, you know, please come in, because I'm trying not to make a unilateral decision. However, I'm going to have to make one, because this is not fair to the residents. I'm calling you, there's an issue, there's an ongoing issue, and the issue just gets to continue. As you wait for a process that you don't even know where you are in, whereas if you had an analyst there, that more can be moving for residents.
No, I completely understand where you're coming, I understand where you're coming from. And yes, ma'am, that argument has been made, and that communication is going out to let our board members know that, you know, I couldn't make unilateral decisions, but I don't want to operate like that. And so, yes, that's where we've been, that's our issue, it's really poor.
Because my next few questions, I don't want to ask them because I don't want to make the department look bad. Because I understand how the response is going to go for these next questions, right? Because part of the duties is to perform audits across city departments. So how many audits of city departments have been conducted?
Well, we haven't done any audits for any of the departments.
Exactly.
Right.
My questions are not going to. Yeah. Yeah, because if there are any patterns of misconduct, if they've been identified, have there been any recommendations provided? Can't identify patterns if you've not conducted an audit. Public transparency and reporting. Is there a line item in the budget for transparent reporting or public-facing tools to track complaints and investigations handled by the ombudsperson?
So basically, we do have our own software. IT doesn't handle our software, but we do have software in place to look at complaints and things of that nature. So, that comes out of the budget as well.
So who handles your software? Where does it come from, and how are we making sure that it is safe? Sorry, Judy.
It's one of my questions, I'm getting ready.
They do have a software package,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember the date of it, but,
Is it
we
cloud-based?
like the software, it uses for years.
Years, so that makes me nervous, because, go ahead.
But if I may, it is on a secure server. So all of the information is secure. So it's,
We were secure over here too.
that's true until the cyber attack.
It's secure until it's not.
Right, it's secure until it's not correct, but the company that in which we use the software, I do know the company is out of Dallas, and that company has its own servers for protection.
So, Mr. Moore, question, because I know now with the city of Flint, we were looking at adding like cybersecurity to our insurance. Is that covered? Are they covered since they're on their own separate package? Will they be covered in any insurance fees or protections needed?
They are covered,
Okay.
and the way I understand their software is that it's, not hosted on our server, but on the vendor's server, so it's a cloud-based, which is actually more secure than having a locally based, software.
Okay, thank you. So, how does the person's office measure success or effectiveness? Okay, I'm with you. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the personnel issue. Are the analysts, would they be union?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. There's, argument why they would not be, but I don't really know for sure on that. We
And
haven't had
I would
one.
agree with that, there's a good argument because you're dealing with units of government.
Yeah, and we haven't had one since I've been here, so I don't know.
And I'm gonna say,
Our list has exempted our.
okay, and that makes total sense that it would be, and I just wanted to make it clear as that. I am personally not in favor of having two analysts at this point. We haven't, the charter mandates that the EAB board gives us an annual report.
Well, if I may, this is Nick, that's one of our options, it's not mandatory, but we can.
No, it says you may recommend improvements, but it says one of your responsibilities is to prepare an annual report. It says under here, under powers of the Ethics and Accountability Board, under D, it says prepare an annual report for submission to the mayor and city council. Consistent with state law, the EAB may recommend improvements to the standards of conduct to ensure the ethical behavior of city elected officers, appointees, and employees, or in the organization and procedures related to the administration and enforcement of those standards. So we don't have any idea of what's going on in their office. Nothing. You don't even, you can't, well, I know, you said you had the information, but we don't know how many, since we were elected, there's been no reports from the EAB. And this was brought up, you're new into the role, but we brought this up last year, and maybe even the year before, during budget hearings, that we did not have a report from the EAB. So we don't know how many, we can't evaluate the amount of money that you're requesting, $500,000 almost, based on what, 33 cases. I'm not gonna approve $500,000 for that office. I'm just not. I don't see that there's enough work to keep two analysts and an ombudsman. Granted that we only had one person in that office, but I don't see where there is a need at this point, especially without an ombudsman, to have two analysts, an ombudsperson, and then our assistant.
Well, if I may, one of the analysts is actually an analyst and an investigator. So their role would be to actually go out to the sites of wherever the complaint is. They would be the ones to actually investigate the complaint to make sure that all of the information that was submitted was correct, to actually really find out. However, also, the other analyst was to work with the Human Relations Commission, and that analyst was covered by a grant submitted by, I believe, was it the Roofmont?
That grant has since expired.
Expired.
Correct. We returned it because the Human Relations Commission.
Commission is,
Right, wasn't needed. And
they
so-
still haven't met.
No, correct. And so with that was what one of the analysts was covered by that grant fee. And so I did ask, if we got that analyst back in place, if we could reapply for that grant. And if we could reapply for that grant, that would pay for that salary. So the grant,
But why not use that grant for the other analyst and investigator? Make it one position. At this point, because the office hasn't been used much in the last 3 years, 2-3 years. Of course, we don't know because we don't have any data.
correct.
So I need data to justify $500,000. And I agree that $250,000 per the charter, that might have been fine when 6 years ago, when the charter was approved. Why would they set a set dollar amount? I know that Mr. Murphy said that they wanted to ensure that it was funded, but we know that $500,000 just isn't gonna fund two people with fringes and any expenditures. We know that that's just
Right.
not possible.
Correct.
especially in today's economy.
No, it's not.
So, I'm not looking to slash down to 250,000, but I am looking to remove the second analyst position. Last year you had three people in the budget. This year you have 4, and you haven't demonstrated a need for that 4th employee.
That's fair, but, you know, what we can do is, that's fair, we can do is, we can just take out the regular analysts and we can keep the analyst investigator there, and that wouldn't be a problem. Now, once the issue will come in is once the Human Relations Commission, whenever they do meet, that's where that issue would come in, because that analyst would then play double duty, so we would have to bring in the second analyst to handle that.
And we can address that at that point.
Okay, that's not a problem.
So, Mr. Moore, can you prepare the costs that relate to that, and so that we can do that as a budget amendment at the time?
That'd be very easy.
Okay, I figured that would work for you. And then, what was my other question? I was writing and she said, so those are my big things. I know that I want to publicly state this. You and I have had a conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
The way that my appointee to that EAB board was treated by members of this body, I will not put anybody else through that. The man was more than adequately qualified to sit on that board. I looked for a long time. He was the best one I found, and they really did not treat him well. And I'm not going to put another one of my residents through that type of interrogation or talking down to. And yes, I have somebody who is interested in that board, but I'm not appointing anybody. Not at this point.
What the?
So you do have somebody that is
Interested, but I'm not going to put them through that.
Just because the way my appointee was treated at.
Yeah, that's right. And the way your appointee was treated at the EAB board, it's not until the culture of people who are currently, and we don't need to name names, but we know who we're talking about, changes, I'm not putting anyone in that position. Not naming names, but I want to let that be known publicly that I just am not going to put anybody in that. It's not fair to that person. Anybody who's in that seat and on that board needs to be treated with respect, as well as any resident or anybody hired to do a job for the board. They need to be treated with respect. Until they can be treated with respect, that's how I feel.
Ethics and accountability board.
It's,
Ethics or accountability.
that's true. That's exactly right.
Well,
So, and it's not against you.
oh, right, but if I may say, one thing that I did say as becoming chairman is that I would make sure that I would protect all board members.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what position they may stand on, and we understand that everybody has different opinions. But as the chairman, it's my job to make sure that all board members are respected, that not only is their space respected, but their opinions are respected, their information is respected, and they themselves as a person is respected. So I would implore you that if you, and I highly recommend, please do resubmit your applications for your appointees, because under this administration, under my leadership, I promise that I would make sure that not one board member would be disrespected in a meeting or elsewhere. I fight for everybody.
But
Amen.
that doesn't excuse the conduct of members of this body.
Yes, ma'am. No.
And how that person was treated. I didn't blame him one bit for walking out the way he did. Because he was talked down to and basically told you. I was appalled. So, and all of the appointees had to come through this body. So I'm not gonna put anybody through that. So anyways, that's my only concern about we don't have enough, I would like, to know how many people we have, how many complaints we have sitting there
Okay.
that haven't been analyzed.
Yes,
That gives us an idea of where financially it should be sitting, but I do think that I will support you on 3 employees in that office, but not 4 at this point.
Okay.
That can always change, but at this point, 3, not 4.
Yeah, no problem.
And I think that's the only department, and I'm not against the ombudsman.
No.
It's just that I don't see a need for another body when there's other departments that need a body too.
No, I completely understand that. And then also, I can make sure that you all will actually get that information on tomorrow. I'll contact Ms. Little, and I'll make sure that you guys will have that in your emails on tomorrow.
Yep, go ahead and have them sent to
Davina?
Davina.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
I'll do that.
And I want to remind all council members who are not present that if they have any questions, to put them in writing so that the department can have the opportunity to respond to all of us through Davina.
And
So
that's-
that,
Put it in writing by when?
what is the date of that public hearing? Davina? I don't have my, I do have my phone. But I think it's in here.
The one that we're gonna have
It's going to, that's on the 14th. That's the public hearing for the community budget hearing and discussion. So that's when we're planning on doing the budget work, is on the 14th of May. So we want all answers and questions received by the 14th of May, maybe even by the 12th. Let's do the 12th of May. So anything that council members have requested of departments that they're asked and answered by May 12th.
So Madam Clerk, can you send that out an email to all council members? Thank you.
And what time is when we meet?
I think it's a 5.
Okay.
Yes. It's a 5. Yep, seeing there's no more questions, I want to thank you, and it's now time 6:40, and we all can go